There's another way to look at fear and anxiety that I take. Uh, it involves understanding that those fears and those anxieties are more guides than anything else. Guides to what? Guides to aspects of ourselves that need further looking into. When your fear and your anxiety is pointing you in a certain direction, it's trying to show you that there are aspects of your life that you have no control over. And the fear is just your, how do you say it, your body, your spirit, your mind's way of showing you that there's nothing to be afraid of. Because, like you said, those fears that we have, they end up not happening. But it's up to us, as the individual, to look inside and see that not only are you not in control of it, but the only way to resolve the fear of it is to understand that there's a lesson to learn. Yes, we put ourselves in that situation that we're afraid of, otherwise we wouldn't be afraid of it. But also, that situation that we're afraid of has a lesson for us to learn. And that lesson is needed to continue the journey. What journey? Our own personal journey to wherever it is that we're being led. But we can't progress until we find the lesson of the situation. So ultimately, that fear isn't really fear. Anxiety isn't really anxiety. It's just a big bright neon sign in our heads that go, look at this situation, examine it. What can you do better the next time it happens? So that you can avoid putting yourself in a fearful spot. But we also have to accept that fear isn't there to hurt us, it's there to help us. Because without the fear, we wouldn't know there's a lesson to be learned. For example, I was afraid to make a change in my life because I was afraid of the consequences. But once the consequences came and went, I realized that those consequences were not consequences, they were rewards. We have this misconception that anything negative is bad, when in reality, what we perceive as negative is actually positive, because without the quote negativity, there would be no growth, there would be no expansion. Without expansion, we would stagnate. Stagnate, we die. Not always physically, spiritually, mentally. What I've learned is that it's okay to be afraid. You have to not be afraid to be afraid. You have to embrace the fear. Because once you fully embrace the fear and allow yourself to be as afraid as you can possibly get of that situation that you're afraid of, is when the clarity comes as to why there was nothing to be afraid of in the first place. Because that consequence, that outcome that we feared so badly wasn't as scary as we initially thought it was. And like I said, there's something valuable to learn from it to help help us the next time around. Because all of these things, if we take the time to look, these things that we're afraid of are just repeats of previous scenarios that we found ourselves in. The same but different. Take the names and the faces and the places off of the scenario itself, and it's identical to a previous situation with similar people. When you can do that and you can grow and you can learn the lesson, and integrate it into yourself, into your being, into your way of thinking, and gain a new perspective on things. And maybe that's really what I'm trying to get at, is fear and anxiety is just a guide towards a new perspective on things, a perspective that you weren't aware of before. Hence, the increase in our awareness when we learn these new perspectives that are completely alien at first, which is what makes us afraid. And maybe that's a better way of saying it, is that fear and anxiety is a guide towards new perspectives on a reality that we thought that we knew. We're afraid to find out that we were wrong, or that we could have done something different, or that we could have thought differently. And once you acknowledge that and accept it, there's nothing to be afraid of anymore. Because you realize that your old way of looking at things just wasn't correct. Well, it was correct when you were doing it, it's just not correct anymore. Because you found a better way. And maybe it's not changing the perspective completely, but altering it, evolving it in such a way that what was once scary to you turned out to be one of the greatest things ever happened to you. Hope that makes sense. I know it does. I don't hope anything. I don't hope anything. I know it makes sense. That's why I said it.